Great. So welcome everybody to our wood burning class. I start off every program that we do with Wenatchee River Institute by reading a land acknowledgement that we put together with the local indigenous peoples of the Wenatchee Valley. So I'll read that now. The land Wenatchee River Institute sits on is the ancestral homelands of the Shimpishquashu, Pisquosa, or Wenatchee people. The Shimpishquashu, meaning people in between, had villages positioned along the Wenatchee River. Their ancestral homeland extends from the Cascade Ridge throughout what is now known as the Wenatchee and Okanagan Valleys. The culture and economy of the Pisquosa people centered on fishing. They also gathered roots and berries, basket-making materials, and medicines. They also hunted game. The Pisquosa are named within the Yakima Treaty of 1855. Language to establish the Wenatchee Reservation was never followed through, even with the needed surveying completed. Many Pisquosa now live on the Colville Reservation, 150 miles northeast of Leavenworth. The Pisquosa people are still alive today. They continue to practice their culture within their homelands and are working to get land back within their ancestral homelands. The Pisquosa people are the original stewards of this land. We offer this land acknowledgement as the first step to amplifying Indigenous voices and recognizing the harm done to them as a people. We encourage everyone to learn about the Indigenous peoples of the place you now call home. So you can see my dog there in the back, that's Thor. My name is Rachel Bishop, and I'm the Community Programs Manager at Wenatchee River Institute. And we are an environmental learning center in Leavenworth, Washington. Our mission is to connect people, communities, and the natural world. And we do that through two main types of programming. We have youth programs and community programs. And for our youth programs, we work with teachers in North Central Washington, working with their students, teaching them environmental education. We also have day programming for kids in kindergarten through third grade. And we also offer summer camps. So if you know any kiddos who are in elementary age grades, we are opening registration for summer camps next Monday. Nice. And then for our community programs, we have lots going on. Mostly it's been virtual, but we're now transitioning into in-person programming, which is really exciting, mostly outdoors in-person programs. And I wanted to just mention a couple programs that are coming up for folks if you're interested in joining those as well. Tomorrow we have an in-person thing. We are doing a Earth Day river cleanup. So tomorrow from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. we're going to be walking along the Wenatchee River cleaning up trash. And then this weekend on Saturday, we actually have one spot that just opened up in our free Intro to Native Plants walk. So you'll come down to WRI 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. walking around, learning about the native plants and how to identify them. And many of them are starting to bloom right now, which makes them easier to identify. And then in May, on May 8th, I am teaching a morel mushroom class. So we're gonna learn how to identify morels and also head out into the field and hopefully find some for folks to forage for themselves. And lastly, I just wanted to mention our annual Spring Bird Fest is happening this year. And that happens May 13th through the 16th. And it's a hybrid fashion this year. So there are in-person classes and there are also virtual events. So virtual art classes and virtual workshops, and then in-person birding all throughout North Central Washington. And registration is live right now. Things are going quick. So if you're interested in that, definitely sign up soon. And we're a nice intimate sized class. So Crystal and I thought it'd be great for folks to introduce themselves. So we'll go around and not everybody's names are on their little boxes, but I'll pick people and then you can share your name, where you're tuning in from right now, and yeah, maybe why you're excited about the class. So let's start with Danica. Oh, Danica, you're muted.
Hi, I'm Danica. I'm from East Wenatchee, and I've always been interested in wood burning, and I've kind of started painting wooden ornaments. So I think this is the next step.
Okay. Cool.
Great, thank you. Joanne.
I'm Jo Carvito and I'm in Leavenworth, and this class caught my eye. I already told Rachel about it because my dad did some wood burning, and I just thought it would be really fun to try that. And I want to make some of those cute coasters.
Thank you. Okay, Kathy.
Hi, I'm from Clovis, California, and I did some wood burning ornaments last Christmas. I'm a potter, and there's no quick turnaround in pottery, so I wanted something to do that was quick. And so I started, but I want to learn, know it, and find out what I don't know. Good.
Great. I think it's LJ.
Hey, I'm LJ. Let's see. Oh, I use they, them pronouns. I am in Wenatchee and just interested in learning and doing something new. So excited to be here. Thanks for the opportunity today.
Great. Okay. Let's see. It's looks like a phone number. 15093.
Oh, Megan, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Megan, I'm from Wenatchee, and I saw the class on your calendar, and I thought, oh, that looks like fun. So I just signed up, learned something new.
Cool. Did I spell your name right? I changed your name on your box.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you. That helps.
Okay, and Linda.
Hi, Linda.
Hi, I'm Linda. I'm from Sacramento. Well, actually West Sacramento, California. And I'm trying to teach this to young children, and I wanted to learn more about it.
Great. Okay, and then we have K Fast iPad.
Be Sally.
Sally. Okay.
And I'm in the Leavenworth, Lake Wenatchee area, and again, saw it on the calendar, sounded interesting, so thought I'd give it a try.
Okay.
Great. And then Gary. Gary, you're muted if you're trying to talk. Well, oh, there he is. Well, Gary, it looks like you unmuted, but we still can't hear you. Well, that's okay. Okay, and then we also have someone who's here with me, Dee.
Hi, Dee. I'm a friend of Rachel's as well. So I actually dabbled in wood burning for a wedding gift, and I wanted to get better at it because I just wrote their name. So I'm excited to get more practice and better skills. So I'm excited to be here.
That's great.
Great. Well, thanks everybody for introducing yourselves. I'm going to introduce Crystal and then we'll get started. So Crystal of Moss Tingle Arts is an artist and pyrographer who teaches wood burning to empower others to be courageous and expand the boundaries of their own creativity. She firmly believes that adventure is a mindset that can be cultivated whenever and wherever you are. She loves being outside and has been hiking all over the West Coast and Alaska since she was a small child. She brings her love for the outdoors to her art and instruction. So thank you, Crystal.
Thank you. That's nice. Okay, so I'm Crystal, and it's fun to hear kind of where everyone's coming from with wood burning. I know a lot of people, their first project is something for a wedding gift, or like name tags for weddings, and so that's pretty fun. It'll be when we do the class, we're going to go over, and actually for a minute, I'll talk about wood and finishes. And then when we're ready to start the project, I will switch to my other camera where you'll see the wood and things the tools that we use. And I just want to make sure that everyone got basically the wood and a wood burner. And if you didn't get the design that I sent out, if you have a pencil, something you can draw with. I draw most of my designs right on the wood, so we can go through that as well. Mostly for today, we're going to use aspen wood. The wood we use is aspen, and we will. And I like to use aspen because it's relatively soft. I mean, it's technically a hardwood, but it's relatively soft. Doesn't have a lot of grain lines in it that kind of make your wood project a little more bumpy. These will still be kind of bumpy, especially with your first project. It tends to be like that. And then, but I also like to use birch and poplar, and those are nice kind of light colored woods that can do basswood also. Nice and light colored. Cedar makes lovely, it's soft, but you do have to deal with the grain. But it makes beautiful, jewelry and like small things and ornaments and boxes and things. So that's kind of a nice wood to use as well. But mostly I avoid pine and I avoid oak usually because their grain is so hard that it's harder to get a good solid, smooth wood burning lines and shading and stuff like that. I do like to burn on cherry, and that's probably one of my favorites. And a lot of the fruit woods tend to be pretty nice to burn on. One of the main things you always want to do with your wood before you do any wood burning is sand it. Lots of sanding. So that makes it really smooth. So I sand with 100 grit usually, and I have a power sander, but it can be, small projects can be done by hand. I used to do it by hand before I got my power sander. And then I'll switch over to like a 220 and just get a real nice smooth. I mean, it's something I'll do while I'm watching a TV show or something. I'll just sand and go by feel, and when it's nice and smooth. Because the smoother your wood is, the easier it is going to be to get a nice clean burn and to burn faster. So those are just some major, just kind of main points you want to remember about wood burning, is making sure that you're sanding your wood. And then you want your wood to be very dry. So you don't want to just go out, cut a branch down and then use, cut a slice and use the wood. You want to make sure it's been drying. It's usually, several months of drying, depending on how wet it was when it started. If it's kind of dry to start, maybe only a few months, but it could take. I have wood that has been sitting in my garage for like 6 months, and I'm hoping it's dry enough now to slice, because I dry it before I slice it. So I'll cut it into chunks and then dry it out really well. And then you can use, I've burned on driftwood, found wood. Those tend to be drier, but you also want to make sure that they're dry. So really dry wood, sanded wood. Those are, the big things that I would say to make sure you have. You can also use cork, you can burn on leather, you can burn on paper. There's lots of fun, like wood burning can just really expand out into a lot of fun projects. So, and then real quick, just talk about finishing the wood. I often do not finish my pieces with any kind coating or anything unless they're going to be used, handled, or out in the open where they, or, you know, out. I don't usually put things outside, but some people do put their, like, some of their wood burning stuff outside. And that's when I would put like an acrylic finish or a varnish on it. If you're going to do something that's just in your house and you're going to use it, you can just use like a finishing oil. So that's really good for like cutting boards, wooden spoons, things that you're actually going to use for food. Then you'll want to use like a food grade oil and don't put any kind of finish on that. So does anyone have any questions about all that I just threw out at you? No questions? Okay. So what I like to do is I like to have you, when you have a question, my favorite way to get a question is that you unmute yourself and you just interrupt me and you ask the question, because that kind of forces me to stop where I'm at and answer your question right away. So if you have something and you're kind of concerned or a question or you're not sure what to do, interrupt me, because that's the best time for me to talk about it, is right when it's happening, not after a while. But if you just want to put it in the chat, you can, but I don't always see that until after a while. So, you know, Rachel's here, she'll probably see it too, you know, so she can interrupt me if you're uncomfortable with doing that. But it's not a problem. We're a small enough group. You just unmute. Hey, how did you do that? Can you show me that again? Or whatever, any kind of questions. Okay. So you want to pin my video or pin me so that when you're, so that I'm big, because I'm going to switch over to my other camera and then we're going to get started on the project. So this takes me just a second to switch cameras here and to turn it on.
I have her video spotlighted, so it should be showing up big for everybody. Can everyone see it large?
Okay, and then I need to switch the.
It looks good.
Okay, all right, and I'll focus it a little bit. It's slightly out of focus, but let me just first mirror it so that it's facing the right direction. Okay, so I'm going to get started on this, and you won't see my face again until the end. So let me just focus. Sorry if I make anybody dizzy by doing that. Okay, there we go. And I want to zoom out just a little so we can talk about the tools. And then I'll zoom back in onto the piece of wood when we get started. So this is what you see right here in this picture. This is pretty much, it's backwards. Backwards for me, probably good for you guys. Sometimes it does that. Hold on. I'm like watching my video and I'm seeing my things in the wrong place. That could be dangerous with the hot tool. So this is on the left. No, that is so weird. Sorry, guys. I'm gonna switch it again. No, okay. Let's see what happens when I actually shut it off and it goes. Huh. No. Okay, I don't usually have this much problems with this because it's not switching me. So let's try again, mirror. It's probably driving you guys crazy. Okay. It's still not doing it. So I'm just gonna have to look at my space and not at the television, not at the screen. Okay, so pretty much what you see here is everything I use for wood burning. For today, you guys are gonna just need, and I'm just been doing some practice on here. You should have a little square piece of wood for practicing on. I just like to reuse pieces that I'm not gonna use for anything else. So instead of that. So just your blank piece of wood that you're gonna use, the aspen. You're gonna need your wood burning tool. If you have not plugged it in and turned it on yet, I wanted to just show you real quick. We're gonna use, okay, it's off, it's cold. We're mostly gonna use this tip today. So if you have either let me see, like this. So it's kind of a cone shape, and then it's a little pointy on the end. Some tools come with one that looks like this. That's a little more like a pen tip or something. So we're gonna start with those today, and then we'll talk about the other tips real quick here. But if you can get your tool out, go ahead and screw in the I don't know what I'm calling this, the cone tip. It's also called a flow tip. Go ahead and put that in your tool and then plug it in.
Does it screw?
It screws in, yeah. So
I can't get it to move.
Oh, you should be able to spin it. Is it a brand new one?
Yes.
Okay. And you've got the other
and it's a sharp looking one that's on it. Oops.
This is the one that
you see
in it. So if it's screwed in there kind of tight, you just got to kind of give it a little jiggle and undo it.
I'm waiting for my husband to come in to see if he's stronger.
And you can use, if you have pliers, you can use those. Just be careful. You don't want to really crank on it because then the brass can break. So, okay.
Righty tighty, lefty loosey.
Righty tighty, yes. Righty tighty, lefty loosey.
Okay, got it.
Okay. And when you screw it in, don't crank it down. Just finger and just that's it. Don't try to tighten it with your finger. Even tighten it much at all. And then I have the stand here. I recommend that you tape it to your workspace. I usually don't because I'm going to end up moving it out of the way sometimes during the project. So, and my space isn't super slippery, so it shouldn't fall off or shouldn't slide off. All right. Okay. And then, so wood burning tool, the tips that come with that tool that was sent. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think it's just these. You've got that wedge tip. I like to also call it the universal. Put something white behind it so you can see it easier. There you go. Okay, so that's that wedge tip that it came with. And then
I think warning. I think I chipped it with the pliers.
Oh, chipped this one?
The wedge one, getting it off because it was so tight.
Oh dear, yeah. It'll probably be okay for what we're doing tonight. This is also called a shading tip. I don't use it very often because it's kind of hard to control, the surface. It also bends really easy. So for beginning wood burning, I don't usually use it, except it does make a nice stamp. So if you're gonna do leaf shaped stamps or something with that, that's kind of nice because you can just press it right on the wood. But we don't usually use that. And then there's that tool, which doesn't come with this kit. It's a different kit, but some people may have it. And then this one, what we call the fat flow tip. And that works really well for writing. So if you want to put a word or a letter or somebody's name on your project, then that's a good one. And the rest of these are just my spare. I'm going to show in here. If you have it'd be good to have a little ceramic dish or just some place where you can drop a hot tip. And I'll show you because we're going to drop some hot tips today. And I'll show you where how to do that later on when we want to switch tips, how to switch while it's hot, even though that's not the best practice. Nobody wants to wait for their tool to cool off, the tip to cool off, change it all, and then wait for it to heat up because it can take takes a good 5 to 8 minutes for the tool to completely heat up. And I've already plugged mine in and turned it on. And the time it takes is this bit right here is what takes a long time to get hot. That's your kind of that main shaft or base of the tool. And the brass heats up pretty quick. So changing tips while the tool is still hot saves some time. You just have to be really careful. And there's some good techniques to follow with that. So I'll explain that when we do that. Okay, so we got wood, we got tool, we got tips, we have our design. And mine's kind of dirty because I've been playing with it with the graph paper. So you have the graph paper that I sent. If you gathered your own, you know, that's graphite paper, and that's how we'll transfer the design. And then a pencil, if you're going to do any drawing. It's also useful for like changing your design later on in the project. And we'll kind of talk about that. If there's something you want to add or do a little differently, I use a pencil to kind of visualize it before I burn it. And so I'll show you how I do that. And then I use a ballpoint pen for transferring the design. I like to use some colored pens, because then I can use a colored pen, because then I can see where I've been on the design when I'm transferring it. And then some masking tape or washi tape that we'll be using. Okay, so that I believe is everything we'll be using tonight. Does anybody have any questions about the tools and materials? All right, so what I would like everyone to do is get out your scrap piece of wood and ignore my this is just a little tree I was working on to show how to do trees. But what I want you to do is I need to interrupt for just a second. Quick question. Is the tool on the right or on the left of your screen?
Right.
Okay, perfect. Because it's on the left on my screen. So just wanted to make sure so that you guys have the right perspective on this. Okay, so what I want you to do is to just take your scrap wood and just start, oh, mine's not hot. Well, it'll be hot in a minute. As your tool heats up, you should be able to just start drawing just scribble, just make some marks on the wood. Yeah, now it's heating up. And just get a feel for how that wood, how the wood burner moves across the wood. All right. So, and right now I'm just waiting for it to get hot. A couple of things I can talk about while I'm waiting for my tool to get hot, and hopefully some of you are able to already start doing this, is kind of in general, holding the tool like you would hold a pencil or a pen. Try not to squeeze it too tight or push really hard on the wood. It's kind of like a light grip, a light touch for so that the burner will more or less glide over the wood. So if I'm barely touching it, it should just glide. It's not super hot yet, so it's still trying to, yeah, there we go. And if I want something to be darker, okay, so I'm going to draw this line. The way I make it dark is by going slow, not by pushing harder. Okay, so it's kind of counterintuitive for like a, I don't know, what we feel like we want to do. It's like we want to go, okay, we want my line to be dark, so I need to push harder. But really, you just go really slow and let that tool just kind of glide through. And then if you want it darker, just go over that same line again. So it's light touch and time spent on the wood is what determines how dark your line is going to be. And in general, I like to pull the tool towards me or away from its tip. So I'm drawing to my right here. I'm just kind of doing that, or I can draw from there down. Okay, so bringing the tool towards me. If you want to take a second and try to do this by pushing the tool forward, pushing the tip out front, it's a little harder to control what you're doing if you can see that. So right now I'm just showing you with lines as my tool is heating up, and it's pretty much there. So just making marks, just kind of getting a feel. And I like, you see, I lift the tool up off the, oh, let me get close again. Sorry, I'm gonna bring this in so you can see better. There we go. And put you back in focus. There, okay. So now just see the project. So then once you've kind of done some straight lines, go ahead and try to just draw some curves with that tip. Okay, so just lightly over the wood, kind of short strokes, lifting the wood, lifting the tool a lot as you go, and just kind of letting it soak into the wood without much pressure. It just kind of sits. That's how it's kind of burning down into a little trench of sorts. Okay, and you can just draw a couple curves. And you'll find that the curves that go with the grain are way easier and way smoother. And then when you try to go across the grain, you might find it gets a little bumpier. But that is just how the nature of wood is. And I'll show you an example of, so let's say I just draw a line, okay, and it gets kind of, see, I'm just kind of dragging it across, and you can see it's a little bit bumpy. And if I did that and I want it to be solid, then I would just kind of go over it again with these kind of light short strokes and fill in all those spots where it didn't quite burn as dark. So then I have my nice dark line. Okay, so that's one question that a lot of people tend to ask through the class. And then we are going to do, the design we're going to do is basically, we're going to do mountains, we're going to do some trees, and some suggestions of water. So it'll be like water, but we'll just draw some light lines to indicate that. So when we're doing the mountains, you're going to be just following. So if you want to take your pen and just kind of make some fun mountain shapes, just to get a feel for what it's like to drag your tool kind of in multiple directions. Okay, so we kind of did that with the straight lines. Okay, and then, so just practice maybe a couple of those. And wood burning does take patience. So as you can see, I'm kind of, when I draw my line, I'm basically pulling my tool along. It's not a pushing, it's a pulling. So these are just some basic shapes. You can, I don't know if you can see, but there's smoke coming up from my, probably can't see that much detail. A little bit of smoke. Okay, and then when we do the trees, and what I recommend is while we're working on this project, every time we switch to a new something we're gonna do, so we'll do the mount, we'll trace different things. But when we get to, before you do each thing and switch over, you maybe spend a few minutes on your scrap trying to practice that thing that we're about to do. So like if I was about to do trees, then I would have you get on here and practice your trees, okay, for a few minutes. And I'll explain all that when we do that. But so just like a basic tree shape. Okay, so I think that's good for practice. We can always stop and back up and do a little more, but I think it's fun to just get in and get started on the project. So I'm going to take away my scrap wood unless anybody wants me to show them anything else before we get started. Okay.
Is it normal for that plastic to get pretty hot where your hand is?
It shouldn't, well, it can. It really just depends. You know, different tools, even the same brand of tool, it can be hotter than the next one. So just kind of what I recommend for that is to basically keep that light grip like we talked about. And then if it's still hard, it still seems too hot to touch, and you can't just hold it further back. So I tend to just, if it gets hot, like right up here, where I'm touching like this,
Yes.
then I would just back up a little and see if that's better. And if you start to get where it's like way back here and you can't control your tool, then you can try like a glove, usually like a cotton glove or a leather glove. It just makes it a little harder to control the tool when you have something heavy on your fingers.
Yeah.
So
thank you.
Okay, so I'm gonna set my tool aside. We're gonna take our little piece of wood here and our design. And I probably didn't tell you you needed scissors, but you need scissors for this. I always forget that part. To cut out, so you want to cut out your design. I'm gonna back up this thing a little bit again. Actually, we're good. I like to just cut right on the circle. That's why I kind of design it into a circle like that, so that I can see where the edges are gonna be. And then I don't cut the whole circle. I just kind of cut right across the top here. So I have like 3/4 of a circle or 2/3 of a circle. So then I can kind of place this exactly where I want it on my round. So in this case, it fits perfectly. If it didn't, so let me see if I have another, this one. So this one, it also fits really well. So if your wood piece is a little smaller, a little bigger, all we'll do is you'll just put it, position the design where you want it. So if you want it further up like this, and you want your water to be, you know, a bigger section of your, a bigger portion of your design, you're welcome to do that. But I like to just place mine kind of right in that circle. And then I put a piece of tape across here, and that's why I have you cut it, the circle, and then cut off the top, because then you can just put your tape right there.
Do you burn the bark portion at all? Or do
I usually don't, but that is totally just a preference. Some people do. They like to go all the way to the edge. A lot of my pieces, I will burn up to that bark edge, and then I will put like I'll burn like dots around, or, you know, something around it. That's just my style. It's totally just a preference.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. So then this is where you want to be with your piece. So we are not going to try to trace all this detail. The reason I included all the detail was so that you would have a reference for filling in those details with your wood burner after we trace in just the basic outlines. Okay. So we're going to set this up, and I'm going to show you how I work to transfer the pieces. And then we take the graphite paper, shiny side down, and slide it under here. And the reason I have you put this tape just on one side and then slide the paper under is so that you can check your progress while you're tracing. You can lift it up and look and see how you're doing, and then put it back down, and it's still in the exact same spot. So if you try to tape, you know, the other edges and stuff, it's harder to lift that up and, you know, not move it. So what we're gonna do is, I like to use a colored pen, like I talked about, colored ballpoint pen. You can also use a pencil, or one of the things I include in that I often have, people often use, is like an embossing tool. But I like to use a colored pen because I can see that I've traced everything, or, you know, areas I need to go over again if I haven't got them right. So, so then you just start tracing, and the only things I would trace are, you know, your mountain shapes. Okay, so just your outlines of your mountains, the basic big shape. It does not have to be exact. We're just getting a general outline of the mountain. So for like the mountain, I wouldn't just do, here's an example. This one, kind of this main mountain in the front, I'm getting not only its outer edge, I'm also gonna make sure I get some of these like lines where I'm transitioning from lighter to darker, or just some of the important landmarks. Okay, so maybe this line here. And then we'll use this as a reference to put in all these other little details and shading and stuff. So then I'll just do these other. And this way we're not spending, you know, an hour just tracing our project. Because that's not what you're here for. You're here to burn. So we want to do that. And so like with this mountain here, I might draw in some of these deep shadows just so I can remember where they are. And maybe this one too. So just a few details. And if you lift up your piece, your design, you can see mine's pretty dark. I'm doing that so that you can see it really well. If you're finding that it's really dark, you maybe don't want to trace as heavy. So kind of lighten your touch a little bit, but it's really not a big deal. You just want to make sure that you can see what it is that you've drawn on there. So the main thing is it heavy enough? Because sometimes you'll not do it enough and then you can't see it, but this transfer paper works really well. All right, okay, and then I would draw like the horizon line, or the water, the edge of the water, and then some of these kind of sections. So I kind of break it up into sections here. I'm not going to have you trace this. Well, you can trace it, but you know, the lines, kind of the shadows in the water, but really that's easy to just burn right in. There doesn't need to be, it doesn't need to be exact, because water is constantly changing. It really doesn't matter. As long as you just have that basic shape, it'll look like water. And then for the trees, I just draw some lines. Okay, I don't try to do the whole tree. So I just, wherever I see like what looks like a treetop, I just draw a line straight down to where it ends, because we're just gonna fill in those details with the wood burner as we go. Okay, so lots of little trees and some bigger ones. And then I'm kind of gonna, this round kind of bushy trees, I'm just gonna just put in an outline. So, all right, so I would say mine is traced enough, and I'll show you kind of what mine looks like. So not a ton of the detail, but we're going to use this as a reference to fill in those shadows and those things that, those details. Okay, is everybody traced? Anybody need me to stop, do anything, show you anything before I move on to burning? Okay, so first thing I like to do is just kind of get in the major, let's see, I'm gonna move this so that we can see it. So you see both, yeah. So just keep your little design with you. If you're doing your own thing and you brought a photo, you have a photo or something you want to use, you can do that too. You keep that. But for this, we'll follow my reference here. And then I like to just start with the kind of the big kind of anchors in the picture. So that would be the line right along the water's edge, the kind of the mountain shapes, and the lines of the trees. So we'll just start with that I like to do that water's edge first, and you can totally just turn your piece so that your tool is easy for you to control. So for me, that's going to be kind of at this angle. For someone else, it might be straight up and down or straight side to side, whatever works for you for your tool. Okay, so that you can see what it's doing and you can kind of control it. And I'm not going to try to draw this line in one stroke across. I'm just going to do these kind of short, light strokes. Okay, and it is not, if it's not exactly on your line that you're drawing, that's not a big deal. We'll just go right here. And remember, this is all, the reason I like, well, trees and mountains are great. Natural forms are great because you can you can fudge them a little bit. You know, if you don't get it exactly like you're drawing, it doesn't really matter. So it's kind of leaves a lot of room for just playing and having fun instead of trying to get something exactly right. Okay, so see, that was just got a nice line, and it's just this light touch, just kind of dragging the tool, pulling it gently, not pushing too hard. Okay, and then at this point, I would go ahead and just get in these major lines on the mountains. So I'm just doing the same thing. I'm just kind of following my line, following my my drawn lines, and just lifting the tool as I go, getting a nice smooth and even there. See, so if I bump out, it doesn't matter. If you bump out a little, just kind of smooth out your line by thickening just a little bit. So slow, steady, short strokes. Okay. So we're just dragging that tool. It's kind of hard when you can't see where you're going. So where your tool is covering your line, that's part of that lifting technique that helps, is you can kind of see where you're going with it a little better. Okay, so I'm just following these main mountain shapes. Has anybody else been, you guys mostly are Wenatchee, Leavenworth, so you've probably been seeing spring a little longer than I have. But I thought today the birds were particularly loud in a good way this morning. So just look at, see, and even I forgot to add something. See, this happens all the time. This is why I use my pink pen, and it's still not foolproof. So I missed a little shadow back in here behind these two, but you know, it doesn't really even need to be there if I don't want it to be. So I'm just going to leave it. But just an example of how you can just adapt your work as you go.
Is it bad to not lift your tip and just
Nope.
steadily across?
That is not bad at all. It's if you you know, you just do what works for you to get the result you want. I teach that for people because I found that it's one of the best ways to prevent kind of that bumpiness.
I'm just getting a lot of bumpiness, and it's not burning as dark as yours.
Okay. So maybe kind of that slower, I don't know, slowing down. You can add a little bit of pressure. I mean, there is such thing as doing it too lightly. So, but you don't want to dig in with the.
It seems like when I lift the pen and move it, then I get these.
Oh, okay. So try just dragging it then.
Okay. And it also kind of depends on the grain of the wood and how you placed your pattern, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, it can. Yeah, I mean, on the round wood, it's kind of, the way where you place the pattern doesn't really make much of a difference because it's all round. But yeah, so if you try that, if it works for you, then that's totally fine. So I can kind of do that with this, but it tends to work better for me to just pull my tool and do shorter strokes. Okay. So once you get in those main structural lines, then we can work on the trees and get those kind of established and nice and dark. And then we'll go back and fill in the shading and the stuff in the mountains. Okay. Part of the reason I do that is because if your trees will sometimes, you don't want to have to be burning over the mountain stuff. So we put the trees in first, and then we're kind of burning all the mountain details behind the trees instead of on top, the trees on top of the detail. So for doing trees, these guys, I made this one, these branches pretty tight, but you can spread them out, make them, and I'm just make them further apart. And I'm just kind of starting in that center trunk, and I'm just dragging my tool away from the center line, the line that I started with, to create kind of that tree. So there's the first tree, right? And so then I'll go to the next line, and I can't see the whole line because it's kind of behind this tree, so I still want that effect. I want the effect of two trees, one sort of in front of the other, right? So then I just kind of fill that in with my tool, just where there's wood showing and not the tree next to it. So I'll just fill that in kind of like it's behind the other tree. And so the two trees kind of meld in together a little bit. Okay. And then I just go to the next tree and I burn in the line that I drew. And then I add in these branches, kind of getting wider as you go down. So not a perfect pyramid shape, but almost like that, right? And if you've got too fat, I do this all the time. I'll build my tree, and it'll be too fat near the top. I'll just make the tree taller, and I'll just make it a little skinnier at the top and then wider at the bottom, and it'll compensate for that. So, and usually when I do trees, I just completely do them freehand, just because they kind of lend themselves to that, so that you're just, so they're more free flowing and natural looking that way. So I'm just kind of going side to side here as we go, or from left to right with these trees. And they're all similar. This bunch of trees, they're all pretty similar in height and shape. It's a little taller. Okay, so you can just kind of go from the center and extend your branches out. And this is more like drawing with a pencil. I'm not trying to draw a straight line. And you can make the branches as sparse. So like this one on my far right, the branches are a little more sparse, and the ones on the left, the branches are a little more dense. It just is totally up to you how you want to do that. And so this tree that's all the way over on the right in my picture, I'll put this so you can see it. In my picture, you know, it's a bigger, taller tree. So I'm gonna kind of, and it, when I traced, I went off the edge a little bit. So I'm just gonna draw the line right to my edge of my bark and then add in these side branches. Okay. And I'm using the drawing as a reference, you know, the paper drawing. And I'm just using that kind of that very tip of the tool. So I'm not straight up and down at a 90-degree angle. Oops, I'm off the screen. Here we go. So not straight up and down like this, but kind of more like you would if you were, let's say you were trying to sketch something with a pencil, right? An old school pencil, I like to call it. So let's say you have a pencil that's like this. You know, when you want to sketch lightly, you tend to hold it kind of at an angle, not straight up and down, right? You'll kind of use that edge. And that's kind of like what we're doing here. We're using kind of more the tip, but also the side of the tool just a little bit. So it kind of floats. And really the main kind of thing you're aiming for is this feeling of more floating over the wood rather than digging into the wood. So sometimes it likes to dig in. So in this case, I am stopping right at the edge of my, the bark edge. And so that kind of is like a little frame around the picture. So I'll just go work on some more of these evergreen trees here in the middle now. And these guys, I'm making them a little more sparse, more like the reference. Right down to the edge of the water here. And I think I'm gonna just for fun, I'm gonna add another one. I'm not sure why. Just so it kind of creates more, it's not just, so when I look at my picture here, to me, it looks a little like just a glob of trees. So I added a little tree down here on the right just to kind of make it a little different. Oh, also something, if your tip starts to loosen a little bit, you can grab some pliers and just gently, you know, mine got pretty loose. So I'm just going back in and tightening it back down. I'm not cranking it down. I'm just turning until it stops. Because sometimes they start to come loose as you work. Okay, so in this case, I'm working right to left. So that the trees kind of run into each other, and you don't even have to work in a certain order. You can just say, well, I want this tree in the front and choose that one to be the one that is more out in front. So you do that one first. Okay. So it's kind of like that. Yeah, you just want to, things that you want kind of more in the foreground, you're going to make them a little darker, and with wood burning, you do them first. And like if you're painting with watercolors, you tend to do those dark things last, the things that want to be more in the foreground. And with wood burning, I like to do the darker things first, and then I can kind of use my tool to go right up to the edge and give the illusion of it being behind, the next piece being behind the one I just did. So, and you don't even have to do all the trees that we drew here. I'm definitely not, because I'm finding that some of my lines are disappearing, so I don't really need to burn them all. So Okay, so that clump of trees is done. And then I'll do this last. So these trees, they're a little further back, and they don't need to be quite as dark, but it's not super important if you do make them dark. It's not a big deal. But if you want to make them a little bit lighter, so they do look like they're further back. So things that are going to be, that appear closer are going to be more, have more contrast, be more in sharp focus. Whereas the things that are in the background, they're a little more soft, fuzzy, lighter in color, or less contrast. So with these little trees, these are just gonna be quick little strokes to just literally, these are little blobs, little lines that kind of look like trees in the background. See how it's kind of lighter? And I'm not quite drawing in that line or burning in the line here, the bank line or whatever you want to call this. I'll do that after I get the trees all in, because I want them, the trees, to define the edge more. Whereas up here in the front, when we did the trees right on the edge of the water, I wanted the water's edge to be my defining line. Whereas back here, we want the trees to define where the land starts. Okay, and see, I don't even need to burn in here because the trees took care of it for me. And it's like this nice soft little line that I didn't even burn. The trees just made it as I burned them. And then you can kind of extend that other line right to the edge of the other trees. Edge of the other trees, sorry. So that little section of trees is done. Okay. And now I've got all the evergreens completed. And I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna do this this section here of, I don't know if you wanna call them bushes or deciduous trees, but it's just more kind of a lumpy, or rocks. They even could be rocks, it doesn't really matter. We're just gonna kind of use the edge of the tool, kind of more the side and not so much the very tip, and do some really quick little strokes right along the lines that I drew on there. And then we'll fill in some of that shading. There we go. And just kind of I'm looking back at my picture and I'm seeing that I have just some areas that are more shaded. So I'm just doing a really light, kind of barely touching the tool to the wood. And I'm not filling it all in. I'm just doing kind of this couple little shadows, I guess is what you could call it, and even down in the bank here. So I'm just using that very side of the tool. I'm creating some shadows in there. Maybe extend this one a little bit behind. Yeah. Okay, and then we'll go in and do some, does anyone need me to stop for a minute, or are we doing okay? I'm just gonna move along unless someone unmutes themselves and says, hang on a minute, okay? And I have to be reined in sometimes because I'll do this, sometimes I'll do it a lot quicker than you will because I've done it 100 times, whereas this is, so just let me know if you need me to slow down, okay? And now I'm just coming in here, same thing, super light touch, and I'm just kind of creating a little bit of shadows in this bank edge underneath those trees. Okay, so it's a little bit of color, but not a little bit of burn, but not a lot. And it's just this light touch with the tool a little bit more tilted, but you have to be careful. I'm gonna show you something here real quick. So if I turn this wood like that and I have do you see how the edge of that main shaft is very close to my wood. So you don't want to tilt it too far because then you're going to burn your wood with that edge and you don't want to do that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So just, you know, I've done it where I've tried to, oh, I want to make this a little more on the edge of my tool. And all of a sudden I'm burning with my shaft. And then I just make it into another tree or a rock or something. It's not a big deal, but I know that can be a little shocking the first time it happens. So, okay, so we have this kind of shaded in foreground on the, with the trees and the bushes and rocks. Maybe add a few more little kind of shady trees back in here. So everything is kind of gives it dimension, you know, seeing the different levels, the different dark depth of burning gives it depth to the landscape. So next, it doesn't really matter if we do the water or if we go back up here and do the mountains. So with the water, what I would recommend is you go back to your practice piece for a minute and just kind of take that tool. Oh my, it's like all of a sudden my voice is going.
Your trees are so good.
Oh, thanks. That takes practice. I've probably done thousands and thousands of trees. So
You make them look easy. But
and really it is just that kind of that working from the center and then just making, and they're really just squiggly lines, you know, coming out from the center of from a center line. Okay, so for the practice for the water, what I want you to do is take that tool and just kind of practice doing this kind of lighter touch back and forth. You see how I'm just kind of, so now I'm just sliding the tool. I'm not doing the small strokes. I'm doing just light. Okay, see how that's kind of where I overlap, it's a little bit darker, but I'm just getting a feel for that smooth kind of float, light touch to create that water, you know, those little reflective water lines. Okay. So
and
just kind of,
you're going to get dots no matter what it looks like.
yeah, but you can kind of go over them a little bit, kind of darken that area, you know, if you want, but then you're darkening it. So, but a few dots isn't going to really be, you know, in water. It's not that.
Those are fish.
Yeah, they're little fish or little floating leaves or whatever, you know, imperfections in the surface. So just when you're comfortable kind of doing that, and come over to your piece, and if you drew these lines in, you can kind of try to follow them, but it's harder to do than just kind of doing a line across. And then the trick for this, or the way to make it look like water, is you've got this kind of some longer strokes, and then as you get closer, your strokes get shorter, so that they're just kind of these little, okay, and that's it. You don't want to do too much. And so right now you can see my pencil kind of behind it, and we'll talk about removing those pencil lines as we go. That was that fine grit sandpaper that you have. That's what that's for. Okay, so that's all I would do for my little water thing. Maybe add a little bit there. Maybe add, I don't know, I like it. I'm not gonna add any more. Maybe after I erase the pencil line, I'll go back and see if there's something else I want to do with that, but I'm pretty happy with how that looks. Okay, so just a light touch. We're not trying to add too much there. Okay, so now we'll go in and we'll bring back our our little picture so we can use it as a reference, and we'll fill in all this mountain detail. Okay, and we'll just start with the darker ones that we've already kind that I traced or that you might have traced, and just kind of fill them in. And this is using that kind of that edge again. Okay, so we're not trying to draw lines, we're kind of, it's like we're coloring. So now think of holding a colored pencil in your hand and how you would want to fill in those lines. And we're not going, we're covering those lines. We're not going to be, we're not coloring within the lines, we're actually gonna cover over them. And that's just to get started. It's kind of a base. And you don't have to do this exact. If you want to have more deep shadows, you can add in more. If you want to have less, you can do less. This is just for this particular mountain, it can be whatever you want it to be. And then I'm just going to go in and use my reference here. And I'm just going to start with this section, this little four of the main mountain, this kind of front and center section here. And I'm just going to kind of work on that for a little while. And I'm still, we're still just using this tip, and it's working really well for this project. So we're not going to change. I was thinking we'd switch, but this is working pretty well. So now I'm just kind of, pulling in those lines that I have. And this is not going to be exact like my picture. I'm just using that as a reference to say, okay, there's a bunch of squiggly lines here, and I'm just going to burn them in and create some kind of line type texture. And then go up here and do the same. These are a little bigger. So these rocks are a little bit bigger. These shadows are a little deeper. Okay. And I'm just kind of filling those in. And again, I'm just using that. I feel like I'm repeating myself a lot. It's not, I'm not complaining. I just feel like, I hope you guys are getting what you want out of this. Okay, so I'm just kind of using that edge to get these not super black, dark shadows, just a little bit dark, not extra. So now I'm gonna go in. So I've done mostly filled in that section. So I'm gonna go to this next little bit behind it right here and start working on that section. And I can see there's like this one kind of curvy line here. So I'll just kind of fill that in nice and dark. And then just fill that in. So this is kind of the shadow of the mountain. So in this picture, in this drawing, my light source is coming from the right side. So the left side of my mountains are going to be a little darker than these right sides. Okay, so this is where your shadow is back in here, and there's just some little bit of texture line in there to give it, so it's not just a solid shadow, it's got like some darker sections and some lighter sections. Okay, and I'm just finding so loosely following what I have on my drawing. So it's not exact, but it gives me an idea that I just want some more curvy blobs through here to be my shadows. And then just kind of lightly burn some. So this is a really light touch with this burner right now. Just kind of filling this in. And in this case, it's okay to be a little bit bumpy because this is dirt and earth. So it can be pretty bumpy and be okay. Okay. So there's that section. And this other little section up at the top of the center mountain, this top right, there's a little bit of shadow there, but I wouldn't do very much because you kind of want the feel that there's light shining on that section. So you don't want it much darker. So either leave it just like that if you want, which is something I would do, or you can just do just a touch of texture in there, kind of like the drawing shows. But I mean, I wouldn't do any more than that. It's already almost too dark when I do that. So, and really it's just preference. So, you know, you just do what you want, but that's my suggestion for that. Okay, and so now I'm going to come in and do this little section. Okay, this right here on the left side, and it's kind of behind. So the idea is that it's behind this first mountain in the front, this first ridge line. So we're making a second ridge line in the back. And so you want that to be a little bit lighter than the first one. Of course, we've already got these dark lines that are defining them. So, you know, it's okay if they're dark. So I'm just going to kind of go in where I have these little darker shadows up here. Right in here, I'm going to make those, kind of replicate those a little bit in my burn, using that kind of the edge, the tip, and then the edge of the cone, that little cone shape on there. Okay, so, and that's pretty much all I would do for that. So again, I want this to kind of be a little lighter, but not, you know, not too much lighter, but you can see it kind of creates like that little sense that it's behind this darker line in the front. It's kind of, okay. So that's that section of mountain. And now I'm going to go back over here and I'm going to work on this. Grab that. Every time I look at the screen, it's opposite. So I have to, there we go. That there, and then that one there. Okay, so now I'm going to work on this section of mountain right here. Okay, so that's this area. And pretty much I've already got my shadows, the darker shadows where I want them. So I'm just going to fill in a little bit of detail. And then I'm going to take that soft edge of my, or that kind of that more flatter edge of this cone. And I'm just going to kind of do this almost like a circular light touch, kind of a circular motion to just shade this in. Okay, so I'm not doing lines. I'm not actually making circles, but it's a bit of a circular motion. You can see it just kind of fills that in. And it looks like rough dirt, which is what it's supposed to look like. Okay. And there's that section all filled in. And I might come in and make a little bit darker, kind of right in this corner here, just to kind of give the feel that there's a shadow from the mountain in front of it. So kind of darken that up a little bit. And again, I'm just pretty much just the weight of the tool itself is what is the pressure I'm doing right now. And just gently kind of going over that and creating that shadow that makes it look like it's hiding behind the other mountain.
Well, I just hit it with the side of the.
Oh, you did. Yep. So if you, what's that? Yeah. So depending on where you did it, you can just make it another shadow in your mountain. You can make it into, you know, make it into something. There's really not a way to erase it.
Possibly make another mountain.
What's that? Or another mountain. Yeah. If it's up in the sky a little bit.
Oh, the cell tower.
Do you want to, here, do you want to hold it up so I can see it? I'm going to try to, I'll see, you're really tiny, but I can, oh, a little bit.
It's right.
Right there. Okay, I can barely see it. Yes. So here, that's a really good example of what I do when I want to bring in my pencil. So if so let's say I accidentally burned, you know, a bump up in here like that, right? Like you've got, or I think yours was over here. I would just come in with my pencil and just magically make another mountain appear. You see that?
Yeah.
So you would just take your burn, make it kind of the tip of your mountain, the burn section, and then draw in yourself a little mountain. Say, okay, I like that, or I don't like that, erase it if you don't and fix it. And then just kind of burn, you know, draw yourself in a new mountain and then burn it in. Just like that.
Should I make it a peak back there?
Yeah, so make it like a peak. So if you've got, I think yours was kind of like this curve like this, right?
It's, hang on, I've already drawn it. I'm sure you can.
And then you can just make that your edge. So kind of like this mountain has a, you know, yeah, a sharp, yeah.
It's
And
like
then just, okay, so you were over here, but it's the same idea. So you would just, you kind of got your burn right here.
Yeah.
Just make that the top and then just create another mountain back there. You could build mountains back there all day long.
It's my world. What was that artist's name? It's your world. Just put a tree here.
Oh, that
Remember?
wasn't Bob Ross, was it?
Yeah, the fluffy hair.
Yes, that'd be Bob Ross. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go in and erase that. Yeah, so you can just fix it. That's what I'll keep my pencil nearby so that I can, you know, make those adjustments as I go.
Okay.
Okay. I like that line. It's your world. Just put a mountain there. Right. I love it. I like Bob Ross more and more all the time. Okay. So where were we? Okay, so now we're just coming in here and we're just this far right section. Here it is on the paper. So that's my reference. So I've got some streaky sections in there and some shadows. So I'm just gonna come in and I'm just gonna burn in a few streaks that roughly coincide with the ones on my picture. Okay. And this one. Okay. And then kind of darken those a little bit. And then start to fill in like I did the other one, using more the side of the tool again. And just shadowing. Yeah, and so it made my little lines disappear, so I'm going to darken those a little bit. So just come in and make those streaks darker again so they stand out and still have that texture. Okay. Yeah, see, just some little lines of texture and filling in. Yeah. Okay, so we're almost done with the, the picture. So these trees on the right, that little mountain behind them, it is a little bit darker. It's not going to be quite bright white as that. So I would just do some very light burn back in there, if at all, to just, so it just doesn't look like a plain solid background. It gives you have more texture in there. I'm just kind of using the edge, that flat edge of the tool, and there you go.
Okay. I seem to be the only one asking a gazillion questions.
Good.
So I added that mountain. So now the mountain that was in the back is in the middle and I need to do something.
Okay, let me see. Oh, I think that looks great. What are you talking about?
See that little white bump?
Oh yeah, so just kind of, oh, I see what you did. So yeah, just go in and just kind of give it a little shadow, kind of like, here, I'll draw mine in and you can see as an example. So there's that, like yours. And I would just kind of come in here with the edge of the tool and just make it a little bit brown like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm gonna go ahead because I drew this in here and I can't look it.
Playing from iPhone.
Whoops.
It's all right.
Would I do it like this?
Let me see.
Does it look like it's?
Yeah, there you go. That looks fantastic. Yeah, that looks perfect. Yeah.
So it's just a knoll that's in there somewhere.
Yeah, there's just a knoll back in there. Okay. Yep. And I'm just gonna kind of do this mountain that I drew in with my pencil because I actually like the look of it. So.
Oh, that looks good.
So there you go. And you can just, you know, it is your world. You can make it whatever you want. So I would say, as far as the burning is concerned, I'm pretty much done. But now I'm going to take that fine grit sandpaper and I'm going to remove a lot of this pencil line stuff down here. And what that's going to do is it's going to remove some of my burn. It looks like I burned the edge of my, I probably did. Interesting. It's going to take away some of that with the sandpaper. So I might end up going back in and re-burning some bits. But I'm going to grab my fine grit somewhere here. I have some 320.
Why do you use that rather than just an eraser?
Oh, you can try an eraser first. Usually erasers don't work. So a couple of things. There's just like a regular, like a white eraser off the back of a pencil. And that'll remove some of it. But the graphite paper tends to leave a little more residue than an eraser will take care of. So you can see it just kind of still left a bit of pencil mark. And that's why I resort to fine grit sandpaper. All right. The 320 is really great because it won't remove as much of the burn as, you know, anything rougher. So we'll just, and I just go kind of back and forth. And I might shake the table a little bit. So I'm going to try not to do that too much so it's not moving. It's just a little bit of effort, but after a while it kind of cleans it off.
I look like I've got somebody that's either, they look like they're golfing.
Okay, I want to see. Oh, you mean like in your little picture up in the foreground or something?
In the back. You see my golfer?
Oh, yes, I do. That's pretty cute. I love it. I love it. That's so fun.
It's a high country golf course.
Yes. So, okay, I'm going to actually do a little bit coarser on my sandpaper because that is not really working. Yeah, I drew those lines a little bit darker than I normally like to. So I'll just come in here and clean it up. Yeah, so once I do this, I'm losing a lot of my burn, but that's okay, because I'll go back in and darken it. That's why we did it this way. Okay. All right, so I've got this and I've smeared a little bit of the pencil or the graphite, so I'm just going to move to a different part of my sandpaper that's clean and kind of go over those areas again. There we go. Okay. And clean it off on my pants here. There we go. All right, so you can see I removed quite a bit of my little water lines that I drew. So I'm just going to come back in and just do the same thing I did before. Just kind of this light line, just follow what I have on there. I'm trying to keep them mostly parallel to each other, but it doesn't have to be. Okay, there we go. So now what I like to do is kind of look at it and just kind of add in any details that I think it might need. So I like, in this case, you could put some tree reflections in here, but I don't know that that's needed, but what I do like to do is just kind of darken, put a little shadow right on the edge, right under the edge of that bank. Because, you know, the water next to a bank or an edge of a river or a lake or whatever tends to have that little kind of shadowy area. So I'm just going to add that in there.
Have you ever done a lake where you've got the reflection of trees in it?
Yes, I have.
Ooh.
Yeah, I mean, it's totally doable. And I've done mirror reflections. And what I do is I would draw this and then I would flip it over and line it up. You know, I would just kind of do the opposite. But mostly, and I can show you on this piece because this is just an example piece. If I wanted to do these, let's say do some reflection on these trees, I would just kind of start, you don't start right at the bank with your reflection. You start your reflection a little ways out, and I would just kind of do this, like, just get the lines in first, some general little like lines where the trees are, right? And then just really loose, light zigzags. Okay, so like I'm keeping that water, those kind of parallel lines going, so that keeps it, so I'm not drawing any, you know, anything across these lines. I'm drawing with the lines, and so it creates that little shadow right in there.
Oh, that looks cool.
You see, so you can just do, it's not that hard, it's super easy.
Oh my gosh, that is super cool.
Isn't that kind of fun? So, and then I could go over here and I could do the same thing and just kind of do this. You can put in the lines if you want, or you can just do just a faint little, and these are just scribbles basically, getting smaller as I go, you know, get further away from my trees, because that's, you know, upside down trees basically.
Yeah.
Okay. So the same idea here. So now that I've done it, I'm gonna go all the way. I'm going for it. See, so there you go. Yeah. Okay, and then I'm just gonna come in here and kind of keep this area next to the bank nice and dark. Again. There we go. And I'm using just that edge of that tool to create that dark shadow. So these trees, I think they're too far away to actually be in the reflection, so they're not going to be included. And that's just me making that up. There's no hard and fast rule there. Okay, and if you wanted, you could kind of add in some little rocks back in here, you know, in your bank, kind of next to your river.
You're really good.
So you can just do stuff like that. And so the main thing I like to tell people and kind of encourage you is this, I'm pretty much everything I do is with a light hand, and I move kind of slow. So now it looks like I'm going fast, but everything I'm doing, I'm really like deciding before I put that tool down. I'm deciding, yep, this is where I want it. So I haven't even touched it yet. Okay, and then I go. And then I just do this light touch. Okay, so those are, and I have done pieces where I do heavy, deep, textury work, but you know, then you're really committed, because once you burn a deep line in, there's not much you can do to change that. So yeah, so I'm just now going in and kind of, you know, taking these little evergreen tree clumps and kind of filling them in a little bit, because they're, you know, under the evergreens is usually pretty dim and not too bright. well, out here on this side of the mountains anyway. But this was taken from a photo of the Wenatchee River, the mountains in the background. So, so this is supposed to be a river, but in this case, it kind of looks more like a lake. So that's what I'm gonna go with. All right, so I'm pretty happy with what I have here. I don't know that I would put any more shadows. I mean, I like how this foreground here is lighter on this mountain. It kind of gives that illusion that there's light shining on it. And then that back in there, I didn't want that to be quite that dark, but it works. It's okay. It's fine with me. And then just adding that little mountain in the background to just because I felt like it, you know. So, all right. So what I would like to do is I'd like to see if you all have any questions, if there's anything you want me to show you, if you want to hold up, if you have any questions specifically about your piece. I am going to, I want to make you all bigger so I can see your pieces if you want to show them for me. So yeah, there we go. So Carol, I think that's Carol. Joanne, let me see if you wouldn't mind holding up your piece. So there you go. Yes, very good. Do you have any questions about that? I think that looks lovely. Any questions?
Should I add another mountain on the other side? Is it okay that it's kind of?
Yeah, I like that because it's kind of like it's almost like it's sloping down and you're coming down into some foothills there. So that looks really nice. I like it. Okay, I think it's perfect. It's great. Okay, how about you, Sally? Oh, I can't see yours. I'm gonna make it bigger. Oh, there you go.
Oh, wow.
Okay, good job.
It looks
very good.
Look at her rock. Those look like very rocky mountains. I like.
Yeah, they are. That's great. I love how everyone's is going to be different. Yeah. Okay, how about Danica? Do you want to share yours? There you go. Oh, very good, Danica.
Yeah. Oh, great tree.
Excellent. I like how you, the foreground, you made that kind of more of a hilly little rocky foreground. Sure, that's nice. I like that. Thanks. Okay, who's next on my thing? Rachel and Dee. Let's see what you guys did. Oh, nice.
Oh my gosh.
I love it. I love your shading. Good job. Oh, so what is this one? Is this aspen?
We just got it from our work bin.
I love it. It's very pretty. It's really pretty wood. I love that. Very nice. Yeah. Okay. Let's see who's up here. LJ. Let's see yours. Oh, okay, I'm trying to make you big. There you go. Are you doing that for me, Rachel?
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Sorry, it's a little like I got polka dotty in there.
That's okay. That looks really good. That looks really good. I love it. I love the polka dots. They look more like, little rocks and stuff. All right. So how about Megan? Let's get Megan up here. Very nice. Good job. I love it.
It's so different.
Yeah, I love how everyone's just so their own. It's so cool.
It's very cool.
Very nice. Cool. Okay, and Linda. Let's see what yours looks like. Okay, good. And make yours bigger. Okay, very good. I love it. Oh, I like how your big mountain is like big. Oh, yes, very nice. Yeah. Love it. Okay. All right, who else? I'm just gonna make sure I got everybody. Gary, are you able to share? Or are you?
Gary, let me know that he's on a TV, so he doesn't have camera.
Oh, so he can't. Okay, now I see the chat. Thanks. All right. Okay, well, that's okay. That's nice. You're welcome to, if you have any questions. Okay, let's, well, I'm gonna switch, but it got a lot darker. So I'm gonna switch back to me, unless there's anything else you guys want me to show you on the actual piece. Any questions, anything you wanna see again? No?
Kind of want to do another one.
Yeah, you want to do another one. I know. That's pretty fun. Okay, so now we'll go back to my camera. And it's a little darker now because the sun is behind the trees. I turn on a light. Yeah, it's okay. It doesn't matter. Okay, so what I want to do is if we could go back to, I'm going to go back to the gallery view. And I want to see, and everybody hold up their pieces for me so I can see everyone at the same time. See them all at the same time. Okay, do you mind if I take a picture? No? Okay, I'm gonna take oh, I can't do, okay. I'm not as savvy as I'm gonna take a picture with my camera because I can't get my screenshot thing to work very well. So of course I didn't hold up mine, but I don't care about mine. All right, you all, that was really fun. I really enjoyed it. Did you have a good time? Yeah?
Yeah, for sure.
Crystal, Gary has a question and he says, is there a way to keep from making so many little dots?
Yeah, so that is a struggle. Oh, see, there was something I wanted to show you. I do want to show you how to change your tips. So I'm going to switch back and I'm going to talk about also Gary's question. Okay, come on, you switch. There it is. Okay. All right. So real quick. So for the dots, it's, first of all, you can see if you look pretty close, look at mine, I have a lot of dots. So first of all, it's okay to kind of accept them somewhat, but the way to prevent them is kind of that lighter touch, kind of dragging your tool towards you or away from you, depending on, but away from the tip. So you don't want to push forward, you want to pull back, right? And then the other thing is these rounded flow tips, they like to make dots more than some of the other tips. So it is something that you kind of have to work with. So let me see if I do this and I make some dots here. Okay, so let's see. So here's a little line where I made it kind of dotty. And if I want that smoothed out, I'll just kind of go in and it's almost like I'm thickening the line up to fill in those spaces so it looks less like a row of dots. I'm basically connecting the dots. Okay, so that's one way. And then real quick, I'll show you the other tip. So the universal tip, it's almost easier to get those lines without bumps because it's more like it's cutting through the wood. But I wanted to show you how to change your tip real quick. So I teach this specific technique just because I've broken my share of tips. So so what I do is I hold the tool and apply the pair of pliers at 90-degree angle, and I just grip that tip pretty firmly. I'm not like gonna try to break it or anything, but I can kind of hold the tool. I can let go of the tool and it'll just kind of sit there, right? So just kind of firm, but not too bad. And then I'm gonna turn the tool. I'm not gonna turn the tip. So that's where I break things, is by trying to turn the tip. Whereas if I hold that tip steady and I just turn the tool nice and straight, okay, I'm not gonna have that like twisty back and forth motion that'll break your brass tips when they're hot, because they're brittle when they're hot. So I take that very hot tip and I drop it into my dish, so I don't burn myself or my surface. And then I'm gonna try to find all right, without touching that hot tip, pull that other one out. Okay, so then I have my this is that universal tip that the tool came with. And basically we're doing the exact same thing, only opposite. Okay, so 90-degree angle, hold the tip very steady, turn the tool. Okay, so that way you're not wiggling your tip and you're less likely to break it. And then just screw until it stops and then don't tighten it anymore. So if you tightening it while it's hot will definitely make it really hard to take out later. Oh, I put on a brighter one. That's okay. I have different ones. Okay, so when you're using, and I would, get some more wood, play with your scrap, flip your piece over, do something on the back. This piece, I tend to use kind of like a knife. You see, oh, there we go. And I just kind of, and it can make these nice smooth lines. You see how that, let's see if I can make a nice big one here. So let's say I was going to do this mountain edge. Sometimes I'll take this and I'll just kind of create a mountain edge like that. And see how that cuts through the wood, and there are no bumps on that. So that is another way that I've taught to do mountains. And you can kind of create those nice lines, but it's not super great for, well, actually it's great for everything. This is actually my favorite tip. It's the one I use for when I'm trying to do a lot of these mountain ones, but the flow tips are easier to handle if you're not as experienced. So like that takes a lot of practice to get to the point where you can just go and have that confidence, right? But you can also use that side, so that flat edge on there, that's kind of like, the flat surface, and you can use that to create shadows, right? In kind of a different form. So these shadows, they're a little more bumpy, rocky looking, which works for mountains. Or you can use this tool and you can just kind of, I don't want to do it on there. I want to do it on here so you can see better. And that edge creates, or that flat surface, you can darken a little more smoothly. So those are some ways to not have it be as bumpy. You see that? How it's more just a more smooth blob rather than a bumpy blob. so that's an example of how to see it. And that's one of the things with this is if you do it, it's going to be pretty dark unless you're really, really light touch. But it's just an example of how that can work. Any other questions?
Safety and ventilation of your room?
Yeah. So I work in safety. Thank you. So this thing gets to be 950 degrees. So it's very dangerous. You want to make sure your wire is, I like to plug in kind of behind the table. So kind of the back of the table, if I can, drape it over the back so it's not hanging down in my lap. I don't want the wire in my lap because that can cause, I can actually bump that and it can it can hit my leg, land on my leg, and that would not be good. The other thing is, I'm going to change my camera again because this feels weird. Yeah, so, and then taping down that stand, that, helps it be more secure as well. And keeping it out of reach of small children and animals, and pets. I mean, pretty much don't leave the room with a hot, those are some basic. And then for ventilation, a couple of things. A lot of people burn with a mask. I just work in a well-ventilated space. With this kind of wood, it's not as noxious smelling. It's not, if I was going to use pine, cedar, anything with sap, a lot of sap in it, that's going to have a more smoke, and you might want to wear, and I use it's an N95 type mask. So it's not like the medical, I use a medical mask. I have one that you insert N95 mask in. So it's more for like chemical and smoke protection. Or the other thing I do is I have this lovely fan that I have blowing away from me, and I set it next to my work, and sometimes I'll put it right up close to my project, fan just pulls that smoke right away. And it's basically, I just bought like a computer fan, or, just off of Amazon or something. So it's just a component. In fact, I'll show you. Right? I mean, it's literally something that's supposed to go into something else. And it just sits on my desk. And when I turn it on, it just totally blows. I have to be careful because it will blow all the papers off my desk as well. So, but yeah, that will do that. And then just a well-ventilated space. And if you can work outside, even better. So, and I would be very careful about certain kinds of wood. I would just check the toxicity of the wood. For example, black walnut, maybe you don't want that really inhale that smoke. But just like with a campfire or with a firewood stove or a fireplace, you're gonna just want to be careful that you don't get too much smoke. So. Any other questions?
I didn't have any luck getting that tip off.
Oh, dang. While it was hot, or was it cold?
It was hot.
Yeah. Okay. So
and wait.
Yeah, wait for it to get cold. And then you can use your pliers, and then you can kind of crank it a little more. You're less likely to break it off. If you go to crank it and it breaks and twists off, because I've done that, I can show you how to fix it. So we have a couple of tools. There's a way to drill it out and then re-thread, make new thread, but it takes tools. And this is not an expensive tool. You may just want to buy a new one. But the reason I go ahead and repair my tools is because I have 20 of them. I use them for classes, and I don't want to have to keep buying tools. And students break my tools all the time. So I bought the tools I need so that I can fix them. That way I'm not buying new ones a lot.
Yeah,
but I do know how to do that. So if it doesn't work and you're not able to, you can email me, and I can definitely try to show you how I do that. Okay.
And the one tip that this is the one that you're talking about using, right?
Yeah, that wedge, kind of a wedge tip. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I see you chipped it. Wow.
Can you replace those?
You can get new ones you can order them. Walnut Hollow has them. Michael's, I think I've seen, extra tips at Michael's, and I don't know about Hobby Lobby, but local like craft hobby stores. Sometimes you can get those. So yeah. Okay, any other questions?
Is there? I'm just full of questions.
No, I love questions. Please.
Pliers that I'm using have a little serration in there.
Yeah.
Should I be using a smooth one?
That shouldn't be an issue. Mine have that too. As long as you're grabbing, let's see. As long as you're grabbing that kind of the base and not the very tip, it should be fine. Yeah, that should not be a problem. I'm gonna shut my tool off. I'll burn myself. All right. Anybody else?
Maybe
okay. All right. Well, I thank you all for coming. I do love if you want to share your work on any kind of social media or anything. I love it if you tag me just so I can see it, because I know that a lot of times what I see on Zoom and then what someone will take a picture and you can see it much better, and it's so much fun to see, like it actually looks way better on your post or whatever from your camera rather than off through Zoom, because sometimes my Zoom is, you get that pixelation. So I would love that. And if you don't want to share, but you want me to see it, you can just email me the picture too. So a picture of it or something. I'm totally love that stuff. Okay. Thank you guys so much. I just had so much fun. I haven't taught in a couple weeks, and this is like, I got my fix. So it's great. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Crystal.
you. This is great.
You're welcome. Have a good night.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Good night.
Good night.